Choose your fighter, Kirby. Ready? Three, two, one, go!
And we just finished the first match of the Elite 8 here at Lowndes High School against Gainesville High School. Their Big Red Smash 1 versus our LHS Varsity 1. We just had PK go in as Kirby, and wow, what a statement. Yep, we did that back roll neutral B. This is Coach Payne, Coach T-Pain Swag.
And Coach Brooks.
And we are coming at you with the Elite 8. We're looking to secure our first in-person semifinals of all time this season.
Yeah, after this is when in-person is, so we could potentially have two teams from separate games at the in-person competition.
Yes, so we're hoping that we can get in-person today. They're going through the match assistant now. They're deciding what character they want to play as after PK just went in there with that Kirby. Something that we have been looking at for a while is starting off with the back roll neutral B, just to see if it works, just to kind of vet out. I think sometimes we go into these matches and neither player really knows what to expect. And this is something we haven't really seen in a while. They're going to be sending in a min-min.
One of our other teams, we had a Little Mac player who, after the other team switched to Min-Min, he managed to, even with Little Mac's struggle with range and just air, like staying in the air in general, he managed to actually play around the Min-Min's place out.
Yep, and we're going to see what happens here with this Min-Min. 3, 2, 1, go! And it looks like we have our first set win of the day. Our player PK just finished playing as Kirby and beat the Min Min character we weren't really expecting to see from Gainesville, given some of their statistics and patch matchups. But yeah, it's good to see a win this early and this quick. So it's making me feel kind of good for the day.
Choose your fighter.
Yeah, next up we have a few of our other players. Based on past recon, we don't think we've seen their best player yet.
But we could be wrong with that. You know, some of the stuff with Smash Brothers is kind of rock paper scissors, and you know who we might think of as their better player, you know, may not be their perception of it either, just because of how matchup works sometimes. Now, for those who don't really know the format of Super Smash Brothers, is there are 3 players on each team, and it is a best 3-player win out of 5. And so you play game 1 with 1 player, then game 2 with this second player, and then game 3 with your final player. And then if a team hasn't secured 3 wins by that point, then you can start repeating players. But we don't know who the other team is going to send in until we lock a player in too.
Really, a big portion of how the game is played isn't all in the game itself, but how you pick your players. Since because of that 3-player restriction at the start, you really want to make sure your best player, you want to make sure each player has the best chance of winning. And if you send in your best player against the other team's best player, you might end up losing that match when you could have saved them for a later match that they would have won.
But at the same time, you know, if that does happen and you come away with the win, then to me that's almost like a good omen sign as well. And so what we can see on the back end of things, we play through PlayVS, who is contracted for GHSA to do esports here in Georgia. We can look up the character stats of the players on the other teams, and so we can see how many times they've played as a certain character, and it tells us what their win percentages are too. And so that was something that was interesting with that player we just saw from Gainesville, is at no point do we see a Min Min listed as someone who they had played as for the semester. And so it was kind of a dark horse, but we've seen that work out even from our perspective. With our last match, we had PK go in with Dark Pit, and we'd never seen him do that before, and yet he still came away with that with 2 wins. And we are waiting for the other school to decide who is going in. It's looking like we're going to be having a Piranha Plant versus Terry matchup here, unless they decide to do something that we can't predict. But our player going in right now is Ninja. His signature character is the Piranha Plant, and just like we predicted, we have locked in Piranha Plant versus Terry in the match assistant. So I think something to be looking out for with this is Piranha Plant has some moves that can kind of zone characters into specific sides of the map, and I think that Ninja is going to try to use moves like the Patui and using the down B move to kind of zone Terry into specific spots of the map to give him some benefits.
Really, a big piece of Smash Bros. Also is that rock paper scissors of the matchups. Since, for example, if you take a very aerial effective character like Kirby and put it against a Little Mac, the Kirby is going to have a much easier time winning because they have that aerial advantage. And you can see that in these physical and more projectile-based characters, that when you're a more physical-based character, it can be a little harder to get into that zone against a projectile-based character.
Absolutely. So we'll see what he's able to do with these moves. We're just waiting for them to join the ring, and once they do that, we will be starting this next match up. And this will be each player's best 2 out of 3. So even if we take an L right here, we still got 2 matches to get another W. So here we go.
Three, two, one, go!
And we just got another victory here, so it's still best 2 out of 3. So Ninja has to do it again. We suspect that he's gonna go back in as the Piranha Plant, but we'll see what decision he ends up making. Yeah, that's one of the things that we've seen kind of quite consistently this season is every single team has a Terry. And all the Terrys, when we look at their statistics, seem to have like this very close win percentage to each other. And I think what throws some of them off, and I think what's been good about having Ninja off this season, is no one suspects the Piranha Plant. It's one of those characters that you really don't see a lot in the competition. And I think players see that coming in, and they really don't know what to expect with that.
On that note, I'd say there's kind of a dead zone of certain characters that you don't really see played, like Piranha Plant. But there's a lot of just massively popular characters, like Terry. You see a good fair few of Marios. But like, you know, Wii Fit Trainer, for example, I think I've only seen one at all this season.
And so we'll see if they were able to get enough of a read. Looks like we're going to go into the same matchup of Piranha Plant versus Terry. So the other team, Gainesville, must feel confident enough in their ability. It was kind of close. So we'll see what happens here as they are walking in for the next round.
Three, two, one, go! Hey! Beat up! Beat up! Beat up! Beat up! Beat up! Run the coast! Puro wave! Run the coast!
and that was an unfortunate loss, but it was very close. And for a second there, you know, it looked like he was going to come back from that. It was that first stock that we really kind of fell behind on that one.
Really, one thing in these matches is even when it's looking bad, it can turn around at any point in the match.
Oh,
You're not completely out. You can even go back from one stock left while the other person has 3 stocks and still win.
Absolutely. I think one of the things you always gotta, I don't know, is you just gotta build momentum. I mean, that's the thing is, you know, if you can keep the momentum and you can keep that pressure on, you can start seeing some really awesome comebacks. You know, that's what can start losing it for you in the beginning too. And you know, we saw both players trying up some different strategies there, having learned a little bit from that first match with each other. I think they started off a little bit stronger, and it just kind of took us a second to kind of recoup from that. Just a little bit too little, too late, but it was almost within range.
Another piece is also just figuring out how to read the other player. I would say in these really close matchups like that, whoever can figure out how to read who first is the one that's going to get the advantage.
Yeah, and that seems to work out a good bit of the time. Now, something that's interesting about Ninjop as well is he's playing on a just a singular Joy-Con. He's playing with the sideways Joy-Con. You know, a lot of players play with their Pro controllers, or they play with their you know, 8-bit duos or whatever. You know, they've got the full controller that's got 2 joysticks, a D-pad, 4 buttons, and triggers and all this stuff. Whereas Ninjop's playing on a singular horizontal Joy-Con, and so he's got, you know, half the inputs available compared to what other players are using, and he's still on a team that is in the Elite 8 in this Smash tournament.
To add on to that, the disadvantage that a single Joy-Con provides, when you have 2 sticks, you can use your stronger attacks using that second stick, but you have to do more of a combo with the single Joy-Con.
And we'll see what he's able to do right here going into this final match between Chronoplant and Terry. close matchup there. Win's going to go to Gainesville for that round, but it's 1-1 going into round 3. He almost got back there at the end.
You could really see in all those points where it was just so precarious, but he still managed to survive. And you can see even just surviving one move can turn the match around. Since in both those last 2 sets, he would, even after being in like 100%, while the other player was still a stock up, he managed to get them all the way to around the same percent and nearly get the final blow.
Yeah, he was almost able to come back in those last 2 games. But you know, it had that animation where it sounded like he was going to be sent, but then you know it ended up not sending him too far, and so you know, it's almost like it gave him a second chance to kind of come back in, and he made a good bit with it. I think if he had just a little bit more reach on that back air that he tried to finish it with in this last round, it could have changed things up a little bit. But in the end, that Terry just had just a little bit more reach than that back air did. Nonetheless, we still got plenty of Smash to be played. It is 1-1 going into the third player. We'll be having Gino go in. He's our resident Terry player, as it seems every team needs to have a resident Terry player, and it looks like we're going to be going against the Little Mac.
Little Mac's always an interesting matchup just because of his very specific playstyle, given that he pretty much has to be on the ground to do any real damage, since anytime he's in the air, he's just gone. So when you take a Kirby player against a Little Mac, it can be pretty easy to zone them off stage to where they just can't even get back.
Yeah, and you know, Little Mac is always one of those characters that just has to be in your face at all times. The thing I think we need to look out for here is Little Mac has, I think, 2 tricks up its sleeve that can be really punishing. One of them being the counterattack that can deal a lot of damage and send players flying, and also when his go meter fills up and just can land a devastating hit. So let's see if our Terry can avoid that here with this Little Mac.
3, 2, 1, go! Her away! Kick back! Kick back! Her away! Her away! Radical!
So we've got
Okay.
our Terry taking a W. We're going to be going into round 2 between these two players. We'll see if they're going to stay locked in as this Little Mac. I have a feeling that Gino is going to stay locked in as Terry, but we'll see what happens momentarily.
Really, you can see firsthand there the aerial disadvantage Little Mac has, since that last stock, he couldn't do anything but plummet because of just that sheer lack of aerial mobility.
Absolutely. You know, that's one of the things you really want to watch out for when you're playing as Little Mac, is losing all your jumps a little too early. And it looks like we're going to see the same matchup as both teams have locked in. Gino for Lowndes will be playing Terry again, and Little Mac will be representing Gainesville High School as well. So, you know, we'll see what these two players learn from that first matchup and see if we notice any kind of different combos here. Now, something you may notice is that there are tons of maps in Smash Brothers, yet you only see so many of them show up for this GHSA competition, and that's because there are specific maps that have been designated for the competition, and so both players actually go through a whole process of selecting and striking stages that they want to play. And no, we will not. Jungle Japes is not one of those, unfortunately. I love Jungle Japes, but that's not one of the maps. I know Battlefield, Small Battlefield, Final Destination, Pokemon Stadium 2, Kalos League, Hollow Bastion. Those are some of the maps that you'll see show up in these competitions. And it looks like the players are loading into the ring to start this next matchup.
Also, with just comparing the competitive landscape for Smash Bros. And the casual landscape, you might see it's a very different game, since in competitive you turn off items and you can only use those specific stages that are deemed tournament viable.
Yeah, I thought I was good at this game until I started watching these players play. My problem is I don't know how to use the shield button, but let's see what happens in this match.
Her own way. Kick back. Kick back. Beat out. Rally. Rally. Her own way. Kick back. Radical. Her own way. Block two. Kick back. Rally. Radical. Beat out. Hey, get. Radical.
And with that, Lowndes now sitting 2-1 against Gainesville for the Elite 8 Smash competition. So you still have to achieve 3 wins in order to take victory altogether. But, you know, just looking at some of that stuff we saw in there, that first stock was pretty close overall. You know, both players kind of went back and forth and trading in terms of their hits and stuff. And then we saw that up B kind of sneak through the stage with the Terry to end up sending the Little Mac. And then again you see the Little Mac, like we talked about, having the aerial ability to get back to the stage. And, you know, it just lost one of those stocks fairly quickly off of that. But then, you know, the thing that we were worried about is that go meter from Little Mac and how that sent Terry at a fairly low percentage, and taking one of his stocks off to make it fairly even for the end. Looks like Lowndes will be sending in PK, one of our classic matchups, and kind of as predicted, we see Gainesville sending in their Terry player as well. So we'll be seeing Kirby representing Lowndes and Terry representing Gainesville. You know, that's kind of one of the strategies that, you know, we've discussed here at Lowndes as we've played, is that, you know, if you're at this point where you're going into match 4 with 1 win, you almost have to send in that player that got the 1 win, you know, in hopes that that's the player who's going to end up getting you to that match 5. So it looks like we're just waiting for them to join the lobby, and then we will be kicking off this match and seeing if PK can solidify it. Still best 2 out of 3, so let's see this. honestly. That's a little closer than I would have liked it to be, but you know, PK at the end making that right use of Kirby's ability to get back up onto the stage and really going for that final take with that down air.
One struggle you can kind of see when a floaty character like Kirby goes up against a like Terry is Terry's go meter activates after he hits 100%, and what that allows him to do is unleash much stronger attacks that can launch someone away at a much lower percent, and
Yeah.
that's especially true for floaty characters.
Yeah, and you know, something else to notice about, in general, and it's not true for every Smash character, but for Kirby a little bit is, you know, Kirby's really good at getting that chip damage in, but chip damage isn't what's going to send your opponent flying. You've got to land one of those smash attacks there. You know, usually you see those floaty characters, because of their ability to get back on the stage and stuff, sometimes they don't have the ability to really land that finishing move, and a character like Terry, you know, having a higher weight class, needs a move that's really going to send them far. And so, you know, it's kind of a trade-off with speed and power. So if PK can do it right here, then that will be game for Lowndes. But regardless, it's best 2 out of 3. So hopefully we do it here, but if not, we still got a little bit of time. Something that someone pointed out in the chat too is that you know, you notice that PK doesn't use kind of that signature move that Kirby has of the down B where he turns into like a treasure chest or something, and that move's a little bit punishable, and our PK player usually tries to avoid that because you can be grabbed out of it and then flung in any direction. But let's see what happens here.
One, go away!
that's it. PK has secured a place for Lowndes High School Varsity 1 to go play in-person semifinals, something that Lowndes has not been able to do before. That last match was crazy. Yeah, there was a time we thought he was off at the end, and then their Terry was able to come back. It was incredible. And so our players off in the corner celebrating. You know, it's definitely an awesome achievement. Yeah. I don't know what else to say. Uh, let's see if there's anything else going on. If any the other teams have submitted results yet.
Something that was very interesting in the standings for today's matches is that there were only 2 teams that were actually top 8 in the standings in the regular season.
Yep. And so as of right now, it looks like Lowndes is the only school that has submitted results, and so looks like we'll be waiting for Peachtree Ridge High School or North Gwinnett High School to submit who the winner is there, and we'll play one of those teams for semifinals. That match will be happening December 13th. We'll still waiting for some information from the GHSA with more details about that. But in the meantime, tomorrow our Mario Kart team will be streaming 4 p.m. on 12/3, and they will be looking to continue to defend their state title. They were the GHSA Mario Kart champions last year, and they will be participating in the Elite 8 tomorrow as well. And that one looks fairly promising for that too. So come on out and cheer us out then. #OneLowndes.